Well, hello and welcome to the Blog Rundown, the weekly show from Movie Burner Entertainment where we discuss the latest movie reviews from our writing team. And joining us as ever is John, and we've got a few to talk about this week, John, and we're going to start with a movie review by Darren, our senior writer, and it's a movie from 2017 called Sleepless, starring Jamie Foxx and Michelle Monaghan, and this was directed by Baron Bo-Odar. And this movie is about a cop with a connection to the criminal underworld scores a nightclub in search of his kidnapped son. Yes,
I can't lie, Stephen. I have never heard of this film in my life. I know Jamie Foxx is in it, obviously, and also I know Michelle Monaghan. Out with that though, Gabriel Union, actually, I do recall her. I think she was in that terrible horror film from earlier in the year. It was about kidnapping or something, I can't remember. We spoke about it on Box Office Chat anyway, and we both were in agreement that we weren't going to go and watch it. Darren has took a dive on this one. He's took a hit for us all, and he's went and watched this one. By all accounts, not a very good film. Judging on his review, judging on his rating, 2 out of 10. What I will say though is that it's like one of these classic ones where you do watch an absolute abomination of a film, and you get so much enjoyment out of just taking it apart in your review. I recall it with Phoenix Forgotten, I recall it with Allied, a whole host of shit films I've seen, and you get so much enjoyment, sometimes more enjoyment out of picking them apart for all their various flaws and stuff than you do of writing a review for a fantastic film you get great enjoyment out of. He does say in his review that this isn't the type of film that's so bad that it's good, that it's a bad film, and it's entertaining in the fact that it's a cinematic train wreck, and apparently he's just laughing at the pure stupidity of various parts of it. There's not many things in this review that strike me as things that he enjoyed, although I think he did get something out of Michelle Monaghan's performance. She said she's a very good actress, she's very likeable, and she does try here, and she's one of the best things in the film. Apparently Jamie Foxx isn't one of the best things in the film because he's doing his best Denzel Washington impersonation here. But she sounds about right. Out with playing Ray Charles, I think he's just about tried to be Denzel Washington for the vast majority of his acting career, and he's failed. I don't mind Jamie. I think he's a decent actor. Yeah. He's quite a multi-talented guy in a similar vein to Childish Gambino. Yeah, like I was just about to say, like Childish Gambino, aka Donald Glover. He's a man that's got his finger in many pies, and he's a jack of all trades, but not really a master of any. Some would say he's a master at acting. I wouldn't. Apparently he's got a presence here, but the script undermines him and everyone else in the film. It says that the script really is bad. The film is so dumb that it's mind-boggling, and just about almost everything across the board is bad. Really bad directing, terrible editing. The film feels like it's been stripped down and you can't really tell what it was supposed to be. Even if it was a longer film, you would never be able to tell what it was supposed to be. It's apparently like an 80s cop film, Stephen, but they've not really got a plot of such. It's just following these guys heartlessly trying to be the heroes and crack down on something. I don't know what the hell the film's about, as you can gather. I've never seen it. Doesn't sound like a film I want to see after this review. I actually enjoyed reading the review though, for the reasons I said at the beginning of my little splurge here. Sometimes just tearing apart a film bit by bit for all its faults and imperfections, it can be quite an enjoyable experience, and an enjoyable experience to read as well. So hats off to Darren for his honesty. Yeah, he's watched it, he's gave it a bash, he's took the plunge for us. I don't need to watch it now. He says it's utter shite, and I can believe him because you go into Rotten Tomatoes, as he did say, a site that usually shares his sentiments. Top critics 10%. Wow. All critics 24%. Audience score of 38%. There's no disconnect between the critics and the audience here. They're pretty much in agreement. This is shit. Yeah. So Darren's actually rating it worse than the top critics. Their rating of 10% averages out over the 10 reviews counted to an average of 3.7 out of 10. Darren's only gave it 2. So all in all, not a very good film. Although looking at it visually, it does look quite nice. I've looked at some of the visuals. One thing I'll say about Jamie, he's a very dapper man at the best of times. He rocks a t-shirt like no man, and that car is incredible. It looks like a Steve McQueen bullet GT Mustang. So visuals look okay. I think that's maybe one thing that's got going for it. But if it's an action film and it's not got good visuals, then that, along with all the other crap with the story and the terrible editing, it really is a really, really bad film. So looks like the action, or the visuals at least, are bailing out not bailing out, it's just way down the rabbit hole. Yeah,
I think the title as well, it was originally going to be called Black Taken. And I laughed at that when I read that, but apparently Jamie Foxx was on the Howard Stern show, and he said that this was one of the hardest of his movies to watch, implying that he was not happy with the final film. So it's not really got a lot going for it, but you're right, the visuals, they do look decent, John. The movie poster looks pretty cool as well. As you said, you know, it's Jamie Foxx in the movie poster, looking very dapper, as you said. The cast as well, you know, Jamie Foxx, obviously, I know who he is. Michelle Monaghan as well. Dermot Mulroney, I remember when he was in a few episodes of Friends. That was that far back. That's how far back I know him. Scoot McNairy, he plays the character of Novak, and I know that Darren says that I think he's playing the villain in this movie, and he's tried to be all cool and dark and all that, and it just doesn't pull it off at all. But you know, I know where Darren's coming from. I think anyone that reviews movies on a regular basis, you're going to come across a turkey every now and again. And I agree with that, John, what you said in regards to how easier it is to write about a film that you despise. It's not one of those movies like Darren said in the review where it's so bad it's good. I'd say a lot of Dwayne Johnson films are like that, actually, where they're just so unbelievable that you know, they can get away with it just for the ridiculousness of the plot. But in this case, it just doesn't work. It's an absolute, it's just bombed, you know. And thanks, Darren. That's one movie I will be avoiding.
Yeah, look at that review from Rotten Tomatoes, Stephen, from, I don't know who, I think it's a San Diego reader. He says that the screenplay has more holes in a trawlerman's net, none bigger than a gut-cut fox nursing a gaping wound for 2/3 of the picture, while still managing to dodge bullets and roll with the punches. So, wow, that's not very good. Box office performance, incidentally, grossed $32.9 million, so some people went to go and watch it. I certainly wasn't one of them. I didn't even know it existed. So there you go. And it's from last year too.
Yeah.
But I'm going to move on, Stephen, to the second film in this week's blog rundown, and it is Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and this is a review by Philip Henry. This one was, of course, directed by David Yates and written by J.K. Rowling. It stars Eddie Redmayne, Jude Law, Johnny Depp, and quite a few other people in there that you may be familiar with. This is the second film in the prequel sort of a universe to Harry Potter that they're trying to sprout up here. I think it's going to be a 6-picture prequel universe set in the 1920s and onwards up into the 1990s, which of course Harry Potter was set in. And yeah, it's a second instalment. I have to say, having read through Philip's review here, I echo a great deal of his sentiments. I spoke about this film briefly in Box Office Chat earlier in the week, and much of my criticisms and complaints for the film and my niggles with it, Philip has also shared. He's a very big fan of Harry Potter as well. Apparently he has all the books. He's been a fan since a young child, I would imagine. I have all the books too. I've read them twice. I've got all the films. I've seen them countless times. I've also got the slim volume of Creatures by J.K. Rowling's, obviously Newt Scamander's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book, which kick-started this whole idea off. And I've also got The Cursed Child, so I'm a fan of the Harry Potter franchise. I'm a fan of J.K.'s writings, but I have to tell you, man, her writings are way below par in this one. I'm saying way below par. I think it's very deliberate, as I did say earlier in the week. It's very deliberate, the direction she's took with this, so maybe I'm being harsh on her.
I think as well,
it's
John, that she's set her own standards,
yeah,
you know, with her previous work. So
yeah,
at some point, you're going to have that comparison with the previous films, and I'm including the Harry Potter series as well in this. She's been consistently good over the last 15 years or so, maybe longer, 18 years I think it is now.
Yeah, it's late 90s.
So it's a long time, and I know that she's a fantastic writer, and she created this world that long ago. It was very interesting to see that she was going to go back further into this world with this series of films, and it's going to happen. I think all the best writers are going to have, I don't want to say a dip. I've not seen the movie yet, so I can't really comment on that, John, but what I will say is that from what I gather, from what I've heard from yourself and other people that have already seen it, it's setting up the next series of films.
Yeah,
a lot of people might have said it was a little bloated, rough around the edges in certain parts as well. Possibly too many characters all crammed into the one film as well, because the running time for the movie coming in, I think it's just over 2 hours, 2 hours and 14 minutes to be precise. It's not a long time for films of this nature and films of this size. When you look at the recent Marvel films coming in at 2.5 hours, The Last Jedi came in at 2.5 hours. You need that time now. I think audience members now I've got that attention span to sit for 2.5 to 3 hours, and possibly maybe if they extended the running time by half an hour, it might have made a difference. I don't know. I've not seen the film yet, but I'm sure that you'll fill me in with that, John.
Well, I don't know if it did. If they extended the running time any further, but it would have helped the film, Stephen, because I don't think there was a clear vision for the story.
Yeah.
I really don't. It was all over the place. It seemed to want to follow Credence Barebones, played by Ezra Miller. It wanted to follow his character off trying to find his heritage. He was just lost. He wanted to find out who his real family were. Then it wanted to follow Newt Scamander, also played by Eddie Redmayne. He'd been tasked by Dumbledore, a younger Dumbledore played by Jude Law, to go off and try and oppose Grindelwald. We then discover later in the film why Dumbledore himself isn't taking this into his own hands and matters. He had formed a blood pact with Grindelwald back in the day. They're very close. It was hinted that they may have been gay partners. They were embroiled in a relationship in their early 20s, and then they separated violently. Also, they've got different views on life and politics and the way it should go with muggles and wizards and on-magies, whatever the hell you want to call them. So they separated. Two of the very similar level wizards. They're very powerful, two of the most powerful at this point. So that's why he doesn't step in to try and help out. So he thrusts Newt Scamander in to the role. He looks like a man that's not really got the ability to take on the role, I've got to be honest with you. He's quite a cowering, shy guy. He's a great character. Eddie Redmayne plays him fantastic. He's a really, really good actor. He's not one of the problems I have with the film. He took the vast majority of the running time. He carried it with absolute ease. His plot where he was basically going off and trying to find Credence Barebones, trying to somehow halt Grindelwald, who is broken free in the opening 5-10 minutes. Fantastic sequence at the start, incidentally. And then also just clean up some of the mess. There was magical beasts getting released and stuff like that. One particular one, I don't know the name of it, a big one with like a fiery mane. That was quite cool. You'd rattle this little stick and a token thing, and it would capture its attention. That was cool. So he was off doing his thing. He was okay. I didn't mind him. And then you had the character played by Zoe Kravitz, Lita Lestrange. She had a tragic sort of a side arc that were going off, and then it would follow Grindelwald, occasionally jump into his shoes and show you what he was doing, which wasn't a great deal. I says that was one of my big criticisms of this film. Just the fact that it's called entitled The Crimes of Grindelwald, but it doesn't really show him doing anything.
Yeah.
At the start he breaks free, then he just gathers all of these followers. They'll occasionally pop up. He was getting contact with Credence Barebones, and then at the end he obviously has a moment at the end where he does this fiery enchantment and kills a few people, but it seems to be more he wants to get as many followers onto his side by proving that he's not the bad guy, trying to attract out the others and then maybe get them to make a false move, and then he can say, look, we're not the bad guys here. But as I did say, the story's very muddled. It's all over the shop. It's bloated. There's too many characters. You never really have a clear idea what the hell was going on in the film. Is it following Grindelwald? Is it following Credence Barebones? Is it following Newt? Or is it following the Lita Lestrange character? I completely agree with Phil as well, but he says that there's a flashback sequence in the middle of the film that goes back to Hogwarts, right. And then it goes on for so long and it becomes so muddled and convoluted that you actually forget it's a flashback sequence. Very cool seeing the Bogart sequence again. That was cool. Cool seeing Dumbledore. There's a couple of little name drops in there with the I can't remember the name of the character, but he was in the Half-Blood Prince. He played one of the keepers in the Quidditch team. There was a callback to him. That was a cool little callback. And there was a couple of other moments as well where there was an amazing reveal at the end, but it turns out this is maybe a double bluff. Right, it could be more than meets the eye, where it's revealed that Credence Barebones may be Dumbledore's younger brother, Aurelius Dumbledore. Turns out that wasn't actually revealed in the book. I thought it was, but it wasn't. It was Aberforth Dumbledore. He had a sister, he had a brother, so could be the sister maybe had a child, and this could be a sort of a relation to him but not a brother. So that's cool that we're maybe fleshing this out and seeing something new getting added to the canon. But all in all, man, I mean, very convoluted. Didn't like the way it kind of jolted all over into umpteen cities as well. That would be the final thing I'd add. What I enjoyed about the original Fantastic Beasts was the fact that they set it completely in a new setting, New York in the middle of the 1920s, away from Hogwarts, differentiated it from Harry Potter, followed new characters. Here they were trying to shoehorn London back in, Paris in, shoehorn Hogwarts back in, and it didn't quite pay off.
There's a way they can do that, John. You're right, and I think the closer you're getting to the events of Harry Potter, it's going to, it's unfortunately going to, there's going to be a lot of links. There's going to be a lot of connections as the series moves closer to that period. You're right. I think the original movie was such a standalone because it was such a a distance away from the events of the Harry Potter series, but it's going to be a given. It's when we get to this fifth movie, there's going to be a lot more connections to the previous series.
Hopefully Jude Law has a longer beard.
Yeah,
he looked very dapper in his slim fitting suit, and he was a fantastic younger Albus Dumbledore, but needs to grow that beard out and grow that hair out a little bit as well.
But I'm just going to reiterate something that you've been saying here, John, and Philip as well in his review. He did say that emotionally he didn't connect with the characters this time, even the ones returning from the first movie. He also says there was a scene near the end which should have been heartbreaking but fell flat for Philip, that is, and it was simply because we hadn't spent enough time with these people to care about them. Now normally when you have a bloated cast, that is normally the case. You try to cater for all these different characters and all that, and sometimes it won't work, the connection between the characters and the audience members, because you're trying to cover all their stories and give them all the equal attention, and sometimes it doesn't work, especially in that kind of time frame of a movie. Philip ends his review by saying J.K. Rowling has said that there are going to be 5 of these movies, so we may well look back on The Crimes of Grindelwald as the movie that planted a lot of important seeds for what is to come, but Philip felt that they could have done that and still gave us an entertaining self-contained story that added to the greater story arc, instead of using 2 hours and 15 minutes to position chess pieces for what is to come.
Yeah, listen, final 2 things I'd add. Positives I really enjoyed. Visuals were stunning. Philip Roosevelt was the director of photography. He's done a fantastic job, but more importantly the music was absolutely amazing as well. Just something about those string arrangements in the choir pieces, just stunning. James Newton Howard, a man who's been involved in the likes of Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, Signs, King Kong, whole host of incredible films. He brought his A game, so those were 2 standouts. All in all, superficially amazing. I can see people enjoying it, but hardcore fans of the Harry Potter series will be slightly disappointed because it was just convoluted, filled with too many side arcs with not one real linear story to follow, and there wasn't enough Grindelwald in it, man. It was called The Crimes of Grindelwald. Get your act together. But look, $430 million it's earning at the box office. It's racking the money in, and they'll not care. It's an interconnected piece in a many-part franchise, as you said, Stephen. We'll get another film, a 3rd film, and hopefully it'll follow these characters that have been established a little bit better, and we'll see the story developing, and we'll see better things coming from this fantastic Beast prequel universe. But I'm going to move on, Stephen, to the final film in this week's blog rundown, and it's one that you reviewed. It's Nowhere Boy, from all the way back in 2009. This was also directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, known as Sam Taylor Wood, apparently, and written by Matt Greenhall, and it starred Aaron Taylor Johnson, Kristen Scott Thomas, and Marie Duff, and the guy who played Paul, who I can't find at the moment. But this is all about the chronicle of John Lennon's first years, his formative years, and his mainly adolescence life, and his relationship with his stern aunt Mimi, and just what led up to the formation of the early days of the Beatles, Long John and the Silver Beatles, you could say, the Quarrymen. Just meeting Paul, meeting George, and then showing these guys getting off in their lives. I loved this film, Stephen. I thought it was fantastic. Aaron Taylor Johnson was outstanding as the young John Lennon, showing you what shaped this great man's life in the early years. It was a early life full of tragedy. He lost his mother. He was living with a very stern aunt, as I said, Aunt Mimi, who ultimately had his well wishes at heart. She wanted to see this young boy go and make something, a name for himself, but not through music. She wanted him to apply himself in college and school and stuff like that. He had other ideas, and he was right. But I'll let you in, Stephen, to discuss your review. Fantastic review. Just
touching on the actual director, John, Sam Taylor Johnson. She was known as Sam Taylor Wood at the time, and Aaron Taylor Johnson was known as Aaron Johnson. This was, of course, the movie where they met.
Yes.
And they became one. They became the Taylor Johnsons. And, it's a great cast. As well as Aaron Taylor Johnson, you've got Kristen Scott Thomas and Anne-Marie Duff in there. I thought that Scott Thomas played an excellent Aunt Mimi.
Yeah.
Very stern woman, very hard as nails, very tough, very strong. And I think that's, at that stage, I think that's the kind of person that John Lennon needed in his life. You know, it doesn't really get into the reasons, really, about Julia and her sort of absence. It does have some flashbacks with Julia and Fred Lennon, John Lennon's parents, where they were trying to make him decide on who he wanted to spend his life with. And initially, it was down in Blackpool, and initially he picked his dad. I'm kind of glad he didn't now, because
His dad was a kid.
the rest would have been history if that was the case, if he went to New Zealand with his dad. But it's just one of those films. I thought Aaron Taylor-Johnson, he really was very similar to John Lennon at that stage. You know, if you look at some of the old photographs when Lennon was, 15, 16, that kind of quiff he had, the sort of mannerisms. I thought Aaron Taylor-Johnson's accent was spot on as well. It was a very hard accent to master, especially someone like John Lennon. It's got such a distinctive voice. A lot of people outside the UK would just say it was a Liverpool accent, but there's a difference. There certainly is. It's like Scottish people don't all sound the same either, unless you're looking from the outside in. You think we all sound the same. We don't. Okay, I just want to get that clear. And in this period, I was surprised to see that Aunt Mimi was the one that bought him his guitar, because there is a very famous quote from Mimi Smith that I think might have been used in the Beatles anthology, where she said to him, "The guitar's all right, John, but you'll never make a living out of it." And I just thought she was against music as a whole, but apparently I don't know if this is true to the events, because there is a few events in this movie that I know Paul McCartney wasn't happy about. There was one where Lennon smacked McCartney in the mouth near the end, and Macca said that this never happened. Well, he's going to say that, isn't he?
Macca's been rewriting history since 1980.
So who knows? It was a great scene though, and it leads up to that great sort of finale with "In Spite of All the Danger," when they go into the recording studio to record that. That was a Harrison McCartney song, I believe. Lennon takes the lead, but before that, it's I've always picked up these interviews from the likes of Harrison, Paul McCartney. The Beatles anthology covered it well as at that period where John Lennon believed there was a jinx on the male side of his family. I think his dad left him. His uncle George died, which was it's shown in the movie. It's very sad. And all these other things that happened to him at that period in his life. And then his mother got killed with an off-duty policeman. I think he was drunk, knocked her down. All these things, you can understand the way John Lennon was. He was a very sort of, had a right attitude about him, a chimney shooter, and he was angry,
Full of anger, and that shaped him.
Yeah, and you can understand that. He was confused, hurt and angry for most of that period in his life. But it was interesting because I had seen, back in 1994, there was a film out called Backbeat, which covered the Beatles period in Hamburg. So this is a nice sort of prequel to that, although it's definitely not linked to it in any fashion. But if you're not familiar with the Beatles sort of story, if you've not seen the Beatles anthology or read any of the books, some of these films might help, although they might be exaggerated. It sort of kind of helps, putting these sort of famous stories in, on picture, and you can follow the story that way. Certainly in this one, I think it's as close as you're going to get. I thought Sam Taylor Wood did a very good job with the authenticity of the 1950s, the late 50s Liverpool. We got to see Mendips. We get to see the Quarrymen's Wilton Village Fete meeting. We get to see Paul McCartney being introduced to John Lennon through a mutual friend, Ivan Vaughan, I think his name was. He shared the same birthday as Paul McCartney. That's me showing my trivia here. And we get to see George on the bus playing Raunchy, I think it is, on the back of the bus. And these little bits are just little nods to the sort of events that most Beatles fans know about. But it's nice. It's a nice little callback. I thought the boy that played Paul, Thomas Brodie Sanchester, I think his name is. I thought he was good. The likeness between him and McCartney isn't there, but I just felt that his characteristics were bang on. Apparently the actor learned to play the guitar left-handed as well, just to really put himself, really get involved and really get into the character of Paul McCartney. And I thought all the other sort of side characters as well, the sort of quarryman guys, I thought they were all funny. There was a nice bits of humour in there, very Scouse orientated humour as it should be, and it was just a great film. I thought the music in it was great as well. I thought Anne-Marie Duff playing Julia was spot on as well. And incidentally, I believe that John Lennon's half-sister Julia Baird, although she's not credited, I think a lot of the sort of stories from Julia's perspective were from her memoirs, I believe. But it was a thoroughly enjoyable movie, John. It is going back nearly 10 years since it was made, but this was the first film I saw Aaron Taylor-Johnson in. I think the next one after that was Kick-Ass, such a a far cry from this movie, but I thought he did the job as young Lennon. I thought Kristen Scott Thomas was an excellent Aunt Mimi. That's the way I would have imagined Aunt Mimi to be, just from the books I've read. And I thought that Anne-Marie Duff played a very flaky Mother Julia.
Yes, she certainly did. I liked the little moments in the film, Stephen, as well, where he reconnected with his mother, also briefly, and then she tragically met her end. It was great to just dive into that complicated relationship those two had and how that shaped him going on into his later life, because it was clear it really did affect him right all the way up into the 70s. He was receiving scream therapy in 1970, I believe, 69, to try and still get over the loss of his mother and his father abandoning him at a young age, the loss of his Uncle George, as you did say, played by David Threlfall in this film. He's a brilliant actor. I mind him in Shameless. Not a tramp at all. A very good, accomplished actor. Outstanding in this. Kristen Scott Thomas was outstanding as Mimi, one of the standout performers alongside Aaron Taylor-Johnson. It's funny you should mention Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I just become so accustomed to saying Taylor-Johnson now. I forgot there was a point where he was just Aaron Johnson.
Yeah, that's right.
It's crazy. It just fits his name perfectly now. It's just...
Yeah, they've basically done a John and Yoko here.
Yeah, they've done a John and Yoko, which is quite fitting. Yeah. They met together in a film about the great John Lennon, who became completely infatuated and connected at the hip with the also Yoko Ono. Yeah, changed his middle name, exactly. So, I mean, overall, Stephen, I thought it was a fantastic period piece, delving into a piece of history we both love very much, of a man we both love very much, of a man we both love very much. Always my favourite of the Beatles, and he still is, even though he's sadly been passed away over 40 years now. Just a great man, and Aaron Taylor-Johnson done a fantastic job of portraying him. The dialogue was superb throughout as well. I did love the period setting, as I said. Love the danger there, of danger that just seemed to cling to the air in that city at that time period. And they were obviously, I can't remember the name, but they were kicking about with that specific style, the leather jackets. Teddy Boy, with the turn-up jeans and just the slick-back hair. There was a certain persona that went with that, and also there was knives getting pulled and stuff like that in the film that showed you. And it was a dangerous persona to take on in that time period, this dangerous look. But John was very much up for it. He was a guy who could handle himself, as we both know. Beat the absolute shit out of somebody for saying something particular to him in the early days of the Beatles. This was a man not to be trifled with. Cinematography, absolutely outstanding too, by Seamus McGarvey. Music was fantastic, and I did love the ending of In Spite of All the Danger. That's a fantastic song. We've both played numerous times on the guitar together, Stephen.
Right,
so that was a great little version of it. I don't know if they actually sang it. I'm pretty sure they did get into the studio and sang it, and it was a great version. So all in all, perfectly cast film. Anne-Marie Duff was good as Julia. I liked the boy who played McCartney, even though I couldn't remember his name. I thought, even though he didn't look like him, he did have all the mannerisms, and that showed great dedication playing the guitar left-handed. Overall, though, as I said, great cast, great story, brilliant period piece. Still one of my favourite sort of a Beatles set films. There's not been that many. I recall John Lennon Naked that Christopher Eccleston played, and that was okay as well. But Nowhere Boy's one of my favourites, so that's high praise indeed for a guy who loves the Beatles. And you look on Rotten Tomatoes, 79% all critics, 84% top critics, 74% from the audience. Very highly rated film that didn't do that great at the box office, but who gives a shit? I ain't got much more to add, Stephen. I thoroughly enjoyed it. One of my favourites, and I'm going to end the show on that note. That is the end of the blog rundown, and we'd just like to thank you for listening to us once again, and we'll be back tomorrow with the Force Friday show.
Remember guys, if you enjoyed that episode, then do hit that like button, comment below, and maybe subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already. If you want to follow us on social media for all the latest updates from Movie Burner Entertainment, then we can be found on Twitter and Facebook at Movie Burners. You can also listen to us on Google Play and iTunes at the Movie Burner Podcast. And last but not least, if you want to access all the latest written reviews and the occasional article, then that can be found on our website at movieburnerentertainment.org. Until the next time, goodbye.